Okay. Yeah, we'll start there. Okay, welcome everyone to today's team call. Sorry about the change of time. We just didn't want to clash with the England game. So it's lovely to have some of you on there. It's always nice to speak to faces rather than blankness. So I got asked to do a presentation at the Milton Keynes event that we just had on oils, which I was really excited about because I've been doing so many business presentations for the last couple of years. And actually, for me, even though I am passionate about the business and I love it, I think it's a great business, I really love learning about the oils. So it kind of forced me to get into the, learning about the new products a bit more. So I'm going to give just the presentation today, the team calls on Blue Tansy and Copaiba, which are both going to be available in August. So really exciting. I've been especially waiting for Copaiba to come out. And I'll be talking about both of these, just so you know kind of how to use it yourself, but also to promote it to others as well. It's really important. So first of all, just a bit of background about the three chamomiles. So, you have the Roman, you have German, you have Moroccan, and of course in doTERRA we have the Roman chamomile. German chamomile is the one that, if you're going to speak to a herbalist or a botanist about chamomile, German chamomile is basically the one they call chamomile, and that's the one we have in our tea. So we had drink chamomile tea, and that's German chamomile. Roman chamomile is the one that doTERRA has at the moment, as I said, and it's a very it's a lovely mild one. So it's great to use on children. You may have used it on children for teething. But actually Roman chamomile, I think, is underused. It's just an incredible oil. It's actually, it's an analgesic. It's known very much as an analgesic and a sedative. So when it comes to insomnia, we often turn to lavender, don't we, and serenity, whereas Roman chamomile is highly effective with insomnia, and especially with children or adults with kind of negative sleep patterns. So if you're getting into an anxious state, then Roman chamomile is particularly effective for that kind of sleep problems. But in general, Roman chamomile is very good for anxiety as well, and kind of any anxious kind of behavior. Roman chamomile is great, and you can put it neat on the skin for most people. Again, we need to be responsible and just let people know that some people are sensitive, highly sensitive, but Roman chamomile is like a lavender type of mildness. So most people are fine to have that neat. And you can take Roman chamomile internally as well. So that's a lovely way of taking it. Or you can diffuse it as well. So that's really good. It's also good for stress, again, so that kind of thing. And it's good for arthritis. Well, in fact, all the chamomiles are very good for things like arthritis. But Roman chamomile particularly is good for PMS and menstrual pain. So another one to pull out for that as well. So they're the main things Roman chamomile is used for. There are many other uses, but I would say there it's kind of key signature things that you can use Roman chamomile for. Now, Roman chamomile is more expensive than lavender. So for sleep, when you sample, you would sample with lavender first. And of course, it's part of the 10 core oils, and you want to keep people focused on that. But it's for your knowledge as well, that if it's not working, then this is something else that you can use. So that's handy to know. So all of them, and all the chamomiles, as it says on the screen, they're anti-inflammatory and antispasmolytic. So they help with kind of any muscle spasms, so indigestion as well, anything like that, cramping, all the chamomiles. So very calming. That's the kind of feel you get from the chamomiles. But we're going to focus on Moroccan chamomile. Now, Moroccan chamomile is actually called Blue Tansy. So this is the new product that we're getting. And you would have heard of Blue Tansy probably because it's already in the Deep Blue Rub, it's in the Deep Blue Blend, it's in Balance Blend as well, and one of my favourite blends. So doTERRA has had it, they just haven't had the pure oil until recently. So that's really exciting. Now, this is kind of just on the screen. It just tells you a couple of things you can use Blue Tansy for. But the main component of Blue Tansy that gives its properties, and Blue Tansy is very, very good with inflammation. So that's kind of if you think of blue tansy, you think of inflammation. So it's an anti-inflammatory. And it's due to a chemical in it called chamomile, as you can see down here. So it says high in chamomile. Now, chamomile is an interesting one just to know about, not that you tell everyone about this, but just for you guys to know, is actually what gives the blue tansy its blue colour. So you know the deep blue oil is blue. Same with the blue tansy, it actually comes out blue. There's no dye in it. This is the pure oil. But the blue tansy plant looks like this. So there's no blue. There's no blue anywhere in this plant, which, you know, is quite interesting. And the oil actually comes from all different parts of the plant. It's not just one part of the plant. It comes from, you know, the petals, it comes from the stem as well, and the leaves is where they extract the essential oil from for the blue tansy plant. And it's not until the distillation process that you actually get the blue colour. So again, this is just for your own information. The chamomile chemical is not found actually in the essential oil as it is in the plant, but after the distillation process, a chemical reacts with the water and the heat, and chamomile is produced. And this ends up being one of the most useful products in blue tansy. So this is why the distillation process is so carefully monitored by doTERRA, and why when you look at essential oils, it's not just about sourcing them from their ideal location. It's not about just the testing we do afterwards, but it's actually that distillation process that has to be very carefully monitored to make sure that we get the right chemical constituents in that process as well. So doTERRA do all that for us. We don't need to worry about it. It's just an interesting thing for you guys to know that blue tansy is high in this chemical called chamomile, and that is what gives it its blue colour, and that is also what gives it its anti-inflammatory properties. So these are the main things that you would want to use blue tansy for them. So thinking inflammation, it's very good on the skin. Now, blue tansy, though, is not like Roman chamomile in terms of its mildness. So blue tansy, you do need to dilute when using it on the skin. It will also, you do want to, especially if you're using it on your face, it will make your face a little bit blue. So unless you're dressing up as a Smurf for a Halloween party, you're going to want to use some carrier oil with it, and then it will be fine. And actually, in the new skincare range that doTERRA have done, which I'll mention on another team call, but just to let you know, there's a new skincare range coming out because it's, again, more natural than the one they've had before. They're always trying to get as close to nature as they can with their products, and that's kind of an evolving thing. Blue tansy is now in a lot of their skincare products, so it is very good for the skin, but you must tell people to dilute it if it's going to be on their face. But yeah, so all these kind of things. So neuralgia, so look at that, that's good to help with any kind of nerval pain. So the nervous system as well, blue tansy will help with. So that's kind of it for blue tansy. I did also want to mention Roman chamomile. I forgot to say, do you know that most Roman chamomile in the world is actually grown in England? So here was I rooting for nettle to be our essential oil, our signature essential oil, which doTERRA haven't, got a nettle oil yet. But Roman chamomile could be the one that does finally come from England. But it's also sourced from America. So out of ease, they source it from America. But there we go. So that's blue tansy. So really good for anti-inflammatory and skin, basically. That's what you want to use blue tansy for. So now I want to talk about Copaiba. This is the one I'm particularly excited about. There's been so much hype about this oil, and I bought one after the American convention last year and went through it really quickly, and I found it so effective with my pain. I had quite severe knee pain, and I was taking a drop internally. I really like the taste. It's very it's a very woody kind of taste, but it's really quite soft and mellow taste, and I really liked the taste. And I found internally was probably more effective than just rubbing it on my knees. So I did put some on my knees, and this is again very mild. I've got very sensitive skin, and I was able to use this neat. But again, if you want to spread it over a larger area, then you want to mix it with some carrier oil. Yeah, so anyway, I'll just share one experience and I'll get on with what Copaiba does and why it does it. So my sister, who lives in America, one of her builders now, she's a body worker, And she was working on a lady for a while with lymphedema, so, you know, swelling, lots of swelling, water retention and such like, after she'd had breast cancer. So she'd had all these things that came afterwards. And she was in a lot of pain, a lot of agony, especially around her armpit area. And so this lady, Lindsay, had been working on this patient for a few months and had been helping, because she's a good body worker, but she was still in a lot of pain. And when Copaiba came out, they started using Copaiba. And I think she just took it internally twice a day and also rubbed it on topically onto the armpit area once a day. And she was taking frankincense too. But she'd already been taking frankincense, is my understanding. And within a week, the pain dramatically decreased. So, you know, Copaiba, it's got so many uses, and we'll kind of come on to it. But that's my personal experience that I've had so far. Well, not myself personally, but, you know, someone I know. And there will be so many experiences that will come with the Copaiba oil quite quickly. It just hasn't been released yet in Europe, so we haven't got tons yet. But there will be. So it's definitely one to get your hands on as quickly as possible, I'd recommend, and start using it yourself and start using it on people around you with any kind of pain or physio dysfunction, you know, anything to do with the body really, as you're going to see in a second. So just to let you know a bit of background here, I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. I do love the science, so I have to stop myself. But I think it's important to understand the Copaiba oil a little bit, especially because of all the hype in the media. So it's a cannabinoid. So what is a cannabinoid? A cannabinoid is basically anything that affects either what's called the CB1 receptor in your brain or the CB2 receptors. So these are the two receptors that, in order to be called a cannabinoid, it has to have an effect on either of those receptors or both of them. Now, the CB1 receptor is the one that causes the hallucinogenic response. So that's the psychoactive drug. That's the one, so the chemicals in marijuana, for example, react with the CB1 receptor, and that's what's illegal, and that causes those psychoactive responses. Whereas your CB2 receptor has a completely different effect and a very therapeutic effect, because the CB2 receptor is basically in charge of pretty much every biological function in your body. So the CB2 receptor is in charge of all your kind of biological systems. So the main system, your cardiovascular system, that is the respiratory system, your nervous system, your digestive system is, you know, affected by the CB2 receptor. So if something can react with that CB2 receptor, it's going to enhance the benefits that is going to go to all those systems. Okay, so we'll come back to that. But that's basically the definition of a cannabinoid. So there are three types of cannabinoids. One is endocannabinoids. This is what our body produces naturally, and that is produced, you know, by the stimulation of that CB2 receptor, then produces these endocannabinoids, which then stimulates more CB2 receptor, and that is what helps with these physiological functions in our body. Then you have phytocannabinoids. So these are produced by plants, the cannabinoids that we can get from plants, and that's where the cannabis plant, I forgot the name, good job, it's on my slide, I don't know where I forgot that. The cannabis plant then produces cannabinoids, and also the Copaifera, I don't know how to say that, but Copaifera will say, plant, which produces where we get the Copaiba oil from. So we can get these cannabinoids from plants, and like with other essential oils, we can use these to enhance our own body. Our body recognizes them. And then you have the synthetic cannabinoids, which are used in drugs, pharmaceutical drugs. So we're interested in the phytocannabinoids, okay, that we're going to get them from the Copaifera plant. Now, this Copaifera plant basically produces a chemical called BCP. And this is the cannabinoid that we are very, very interested in, because BCP, first of all, it's very legal. So we're not going to get locked away for using it. And it doesn't have any effect on the CB1 receptor, which is why it is legal. So it only has an effect on that CB2 receptor, and it has it's very effective in stimulating that CB2 receptor. So this is the cannabinoid that we get in Copaiba oil. Now, therefore, if people are using Copaiba,
if they get tested, they're not going to have any positive result in a drug test, which is important, especially if you're giving it to athletes or you know, other people like that. So it's completely clear of anything illegal. It doesn't have any of the nasty stuff that we shouldn't have in it. Now, just on a side note, most oils out there, most CBD oils, if you look up CBD oils, and they're the oils that you know, people are trying to sell and trying to push, most CBD oils, even though they're claiming don't have illegal things in them, doTERRA's scientific team, just so you're aware, took a load of CBD oils on the market and they tested them, and a lot of them had the illegal THC. Now, THC is the cannabinoid that's basically produced by the marijuana plant, and that is the one that stimulates the CB1 receptor that causes the hallucinations and everything. So that's the one that's completely illegal. So even though CBD oils out there are claiming not to have them, they found that many did. And in some samples, there were no other oils, cannabinoid oils in there. It was just literally the THC. But doTERRA are absolutely guaranteeing, and this is where it's very important, this is kind of really all we need to know, doTERRA's oil is completely 100% free of THC, which is the illegal cannabinoid that affects that CB1 receptor. So that's the take-home message here. doTERRA is completely free of that oil. And actually, you know, it's, again, the oil that doTERRA produce has the highest amount of BCP that they've found. So in most supplements out there, most oils with BCP in only have about a 35% ratio of BCP, whereas doTERRA has 55%. And that's the one we really want. I mean, there's other components, other chemicals as well in the Copaiba oil, but BCP is the one that we're really kind of trying to get. So that is kind of what's in Copaiba, and it's the cannabinoids that we're interested in. But Copaiba itself, and doTERRA's Copaiba, just so you're aware, is a blend of 4 different species of these trees. These are different species, and again, you wouldn't tell someone this really unless they really asked. But the reason why they do this is a bit like the frankincense. We have the 3 different species of frankincense to make our frankincense oil, is because in order for them to get the best chemical constituents and to get the best results that we're looking for, they find blending the 4 species together produces that, rather than just using one species. So the scientists have done all this for us. So they've produced what they believe is the best Copaiba oil on the market that's going to give us the best effects, basically. And our Copaiba is very quickly metabolized by the body. So it's very quickly absorbed and can then be used by the body to enhance our own physiological processes. So have a look here. This is the exciting stuff. This is what Copaiba oil can do for us. So, you know, that state can do everything. It can pretty much, it does the main things in our body, doesn't it? So inflammation, all disease is based on inflammation. So any kind of chronic conditions especially, but skin conditions as well, you know, inflammation is huge, and it helps with inflammation. It's really, really good at easing anxiety. So a bit like, you know, with marijuana, that is one of the things that marijuana does very effectively, and Copaiba does that too, but in a very legal way. So if people are highly anxious, then Copaiba is going to really help with their anxiety. But what it's also good for, that marijuana is not so good for, is the cardiovascular health. So Copaiba is very good at helping with the cardiovascular health, the immune system as well. So all the main systems, as I mentioned, digestive system, nervous system, so any nervous system conditions, and it's a powerful antioxidant, and it's great for skin as well. So it's very moisturizing, it's great for hair. It's pretty much one that, and as I was doing research on the Copaiba oil, time and time again, it said regular use, regular use, regular use. So if someone has got some serious condition, you know, some autoimmune disease as well, yes, it's really good for autoimmune diseases too. So that's something, because, you know, that comes up a lot, doesn't it? But things like that, you want them to be taking this every single day. And I would say internally is going to be their best way of taking Copaiba. But again, you can put it on topically too, and it, you know, obviously for skin, you'll want to do both. But they're all its uses
It really is a really exciting oil to have. So here are just some ways that you can, use it. I mentioned with the skin, it's a very good oil for the skin. Now, woody oils in general are good for the skin. And what the woody oils help with is the extracellular matrix, the ECM, which is deep rooted, so underneath the layers of skin. So below the skin that you can actually see, the woody oils go in and penetrate deeply and help to heal the skin underneath. So the best way of treating the skin with something like Copaiba is to actually mix it with a floral oil, because the floral oils help the skin on a superficial level. So you can use geranium, would be a perfect use with Copaiba, or lavender. You could use it with lavender. That's a cheaper option for a really good skin care. And then diffusing it's going to be wonderful to diffuse it. And now, obviously, if you want it to help with more digestive issues, then taking it in a capsule would be best, because you want to get it to the gut. So remember, if you're just wanting it systemic, then you can just take it internally in some water or put it on the bottom of your feet. That's good for systemic. But if you want to direct any oil to your gut, the best way of doing that is in a capsule, so it doesn't get diluted down as it travels towards the gut. So you want to get it to the gut more. So that's a good way of using it. And then, yes, a blending of peppermint for digestive support. So again, you can blend it with other oils that we're already using for certain conditions, and it's only going to enhance it. And then I'm just going to end with bringing the two lovely oils together that we've spoken about today. The blue tansy is so good for skin. So for soothing irritations, so eczema, dermatitis, all those kind of things, then try blending Copaiba with the blue tansy, because those two are highly effective with skin conditions, with some carrier oil. Okay, so that is that. I'm going to stop recording and then take any questions briefly if anyone has any questions.